Our open marriage was supposed to be equal, but I found someone who makes me question everything, and my wife is furious. When my wife Jessica first brought up the idea of opening our marriage, I was stunned. We'd been together for 7 years, and while our relationship had its ups and downs, I never thought we'd come to this. She sat me down one evening, a glass of wine in her hand, and told me she felt like we'd become too comfortable. "We've lost the spark," she said. "I want to explore, but I want us to do it together. It could bring us closer." I wasn't sold on the idea. The thought of her being with someone else made my stomach churn, but I could see she'd already thought this through. She had articles to back up her claims about open relationships strengthening marriages, stories of other couples who made it work. "I don't want to lose you," she said, "but I also want to feel alive again." Reluctantly, I agreed. I loved Jessica, and if this was what it took to make her happy, I'd try. We set boundaries, full transparency, no emotional attachments, and no overnight stays. It was all supposed to be casual. At first, nothing happened. Weeks went by and neither of us acted on the agreement. I started to think this was just a phase, something she wanted to test without any real intention of following through. Then, one night, she came home later than usual. Her flushed cheeks and awkward energy told me everything I needed to know before she said a word. "I met someone," she admitted. I tried to play it cool, telling myself this was what I'd agreed to. But inside, I was a mess. To distract myself, I decided to give the exploring thing a shot too. I downloaded a dating app, not expecting much. Little did I know, that decision would change everything. At first, I swiped through profiles on the dating app with zero expectations. Most of the bios felt shallow, and honestly, I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. This wasn't about replacing Jessica, it was just a distraction, or so I thought. Then I matched with Claire. Claire's profile was simple, a picture of her hiking with her dog, a witty line about loving bad coffee, and a quote from a book I'd actually read. She wasn't trying too hard to impress anyone. When I messaged her, the conversation flowed effortlessly. Unlike Jessica, Claire wasn't flashy or over the top. She was warm, grounded, and easy to talk to. We started exchanging messages daily, and within a week we agreed to meet for coffee. I was nervous as I walked into the cafe. I'd never done anything like this before, but when I saw Claire sitting at a corner table, smiling and waving, my nerves disappeared. Our first meeting lasted hours. We talked about everything: books, music, dreams, and even the awkwardness of modern dating. I didn't tell her much about Jessica or the situation I was in. All she knew was that I was married and we were in an open arrangement. By the end of the evening, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: connection. It wasn't just physical attraction. Claire made me feel seen, valued, and appreciated in a way I hadn't experienced with Jessica in a long time. Over the next few weeks, I found myself spending more and more time with Claire. We went on hikes, shared meals, and talked late into the night. She wasn't demanding or complicated. She just wanted to enjoy the time we had together. Jessica noticed the change. In me, she started asking questions about where I was going and who I was seeing. I told her about Claire, but I kept the details vague. I thought it would be easier that way. But things were far from easy. As my bond with Claire grew stronger, I couldn't ignore the growing distance between Jessica and me. It was as if the very arrangement she proposed was driving us further apart. It didn't take long for Jessica to start acting differently. At first it was subtle, little digs about how much time I was spending out. Then it escalated. One night, as I was getting ready to meet Claire, Jessica stood in the doorway of our bedroom with her arms crossed. "You're seeing her again, aren't you?" she asked, her voice dripping with irritation. I paused, unsure how to answer. "Yeah, we're just grabbing dinner. You're the one who wanted this, Jess. I didn't think you'd actually enjoy it," she shot back, her eyes narrowing. Her words caught me off guard. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I thought this was about fun, not feelings," she snapped. "But now you're acting like you're in some relationship with her." I sighed. "Jessica, we agreed to this. You've been seeing other people too." "Yeah, but it's different," she said, throwing her hands up. "I'm not forming an emotional connection with anyone, it's just casual." Her words stung, but they also made me realize something. With Claire, it wasn't casual. It hadn't been for a while. I didn't plan for this to happen, I admitted, my voice softer now. But Claire makes me feel alive. I don't know how else to explain it. Jessica's face darkened. So what? You're just going to leave me for her? I didn't say that, I said quickly. But the truth was, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. For weeks, Jessica's jealousy grew more intense. She started asking where I was every time I left the house. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about Claire, even though she'd never met her. It was ironic. Jessica had initiated the open marriage, but now she seemed to hate the very idea of me being with someone else. One night, she finally exploded. "I can't do this anymore," she yelled. "I thought opening our marriage would fix things, but it's only made everything worse." "Then why did you suggest it in the first place?" I asked, my frustration boiling over. "Because I was bored," she shouted, her voice cracking. "I thought we needed something exciting to save us, but now it feels like I'm losing you." Her confession hit me like a truck. For the first time, I saw the cracks in her confident, carefree exterior. Jessica wasn't as sure of herself as she pretended to be. Jessica's outburst lingered in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. For the first time in years, I saw the vulnerability beneath her tough exterior. But instead of feeling compassion, I felt anger bubbling inside me. "You were bored," I repeated, incredulous. "So you decided to throw our marriage into chaos. Do you even understand what this has done to us?" Her lip quivered, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. "I thought we'd grow stronger. I thought it'd bring us closer, give us both a chance to feel alive again. I didn't think you'd actually fall for someone else." I shook my head, laughing bitterly. "You wanted excitement. You wanted freedom. And now that I've found someone who makes me feel seen, you can't handle it." "That's not fair," she shot back. "You're my husband. I didn't think I'd have to compete for your attention." "Compete?" I scoffed. "Jessica, I've been competing for your attention for years. You checked out of this marriage long before Claire came into the picture." Her face turned pale. "That's not true," she whispered. "Isn't it?" I countered. "All the nights you were out with friends or glued to your phone, ignoring me. All the times I tried to talk to you, only for you to brush me off. I was invisible to you, Jess. Claire, she sees me. She listens. She cares." Jessica flinched as if I'd slapped her. For the first time, I saw tears pooling in her eyes. "I didn't realize you felt that way," she admitted quietly. "Well, now you know," I said, my voice softening but still firm. "This open marriage didn't break us, Jess. We were broken long before that. And I'm starting to think you knew that too." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The weight of years of unspoken resentment and hurt hung between us, suffocating. Finally, Jessica broke the silence. "Do you love her?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question caught me off guard. Did I love Claire? I hadn't let myself think about it until now. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "But I do know that I'm happier when I'm with her than I've been in a long time." Jessica's tears finally spilled over, and she wiped them away angrily. "So that's it then? You're choosing her over me?" "I'm not choosing anyone right now," I said. "But maybe we need to stop pretending this is working." Jessica's tears flowed freely now, and for the first time in years, I saw raw emotion on her face that wasn't masked by sarcasm or indifference. But instead of softening me, it only made the situation feel more tragic. This wasn't how I imagined our marriage would end, if it even was ending. "Ethan," she said, her voice trembling, "I don't want to lose you. I know I messed up, okay? I shouldn't have pushed for the open marriage. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. I don't want anyone else. I just want you." Her words hung in the air, the sincerity in them undeniable. But it was too late for them to land the way she wanted. The damage was done, and the life we once shared now felt irreparably fractured. "You only want me now because you're losing control," I said quietly. "It's not about love, Jess. It's about you not being able to handle the fact that I found someone else who values me." "That's not true!" she shouted, her voice cracking. "I love you. I've always loved you. I didn't know how unhappy we'd both gotten. I thought this would fix things. "You thought wrong," I interrupted, the bitterness in my tone surprising even me. And now I don't know if there's anything left to fix. Jessica collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I stood there, unsure of what to say or do. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to hold her and tell her we'd find a way through this. But another part of me, the part that had been neglected and dismissed for years, felt nothing but exhaustion. I need time to think, I finally said. I can't make a decision about us right now. This is too much. She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. What about Claire? She asked. Are you going to see her while you're thinking? I hesitated. I don't know, I admitted. But I'm not going to lie to you. What I have with Claire feels real. She treats me in a way I haven't been treated in years, Jess. She makes me feel alive. Jessica flinched at my words, but she didn't argue. Instead, she nodded slowly, as if she'd already resigned herself to the reality she was now facing. I don't know how we got here, she whispered, but I hate it. Me too, I said softly. But here we are. Without another word, I grabbed my coat and stepped out of the house, leaving Jessica sobbing on the couch. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I needed space. Space to figure out what I wanted, and whether our marriage could be salvaged, or if it was time to walk away for good. That night, I drove aimlessly through the city. My thoughts a whirlwind of emotions and memories. Every corner seemed to hold a fragment of the life Jessica and I had built together, a life that now felt so far away. How did we get here? How did the woman I once adored and the marriage I cherished unravel into this mess? I kept asking myself the same questions, but the answers remained elusive. I ended up at a quiet park where Jessica and I used to take long walks during the early days of our relationship. Sitting on a bench under the pale glow of a street lamp, I replayed every moment of our recent conversation, Jessica's tears, her words, the undeniable pain in her voice. And yet, I couldn't ignore how Claire had made me feel these past few months. She'd brought something back into my life that I hadn't realized I'd lost. A sense of being seen, valued, and cared for. It wasn't just about passion or excitement. It was about feeling whole again. But was that enough to walk away from a marriage that had spanned over a decade? A marriage with shared memories, a shared home, and a shared history. The next morning, I returned home. Jessica was sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee in her hands. She looked like she hadn't slept, and I imagined I looked the same. Did you decide? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, sitting across from her. I think we need to take a step back, I said carefully. This situation, it's too complicated, and I need time to figure out what I really want, what we both want. She nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the table. So, you're choosing her? She asked, a hint of accusation creeping into her tone. I'm not choosing anyone, I replied. This isn't about Claire or you, it's about me. I've spent so much of my life trying to make this marriage work that I forgot what it feels like to be happy. Truly happy. And what about me? Ethan? She asked, her voice rising. Do I not deserve happiness too? Do I not deserve a chance to fix what I broke? You do, I said softly. But I can't keep pretending everything is okay just because we want it to be. We need to figure out if we're holding on to this marriage because we love each other or because we're afraid to let go. Jessica didn't respond. Instead, she sat in silence, her hands gripping the coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. As I write this, I still don't know what the future holds. Jessica and I agreed to take some time apart to reassess our feelings and what we want from life. Claire, for her part, has been supportive, telling me she'll wait for as long as it takes for me to sort things out. But the truth is, part of me feels like walking away from my marriage would be a betrayal of everything Jessica and I have been through together. Another part of me wonders if staying would mean settling for a relationship that no longer brings out the best in me. Or her. Did I handle this the right way? Or am I making a mistake by not choosing a clear path? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I could really use some outside perspective right now.